The class, really the goal was to combine studies in acoustics, instrument acoustics, and instrument design with a hands-on component, which is actually building these instruments. So as opposed to a course where you're just studying about different oscillatory systems, vibrating strings, resonating columns of air, we had a lab component where the students would then build instruments that would sort of explore each of these acoustic properties.
And our goal was to give the students the tools to ultimately build an instrument, a musical instrument of their own making. So the way we did that was we taught them about sort of this standard sort of toolbox of acoustics, how string instruments work, how wind instruments work. And we also taught them about concepts of electronic synthesis. But then at the same time, in parallel with that, we did two other things. We taught them about engineering tools such as SolidWorks, which will allow you to design things in 3 dimensions and then go and actually make them in the shop, as well as analyze the motion of these 3-dimensional objects. And we also had laboratories where they had intermediate stages of building simpler instruments where they could learn how to build and construct things, and also to see what kind of design flaws they need to worry about in making such a device.
After the first part of the semester, where we really investigated some of these acoustic properties, the students really were sort of set free to come up with their own instruments. So it was very much a self-directed type of project. Obviously, we were working with them very closely throughout the whole design process, and for example, students that didn't have background in electronics, Larry or myself would help out with that.
The concepts for the students' instruments came completely from the students themselves. We did not give any of the students the idea for the instrument they would build. We certainly helped them as they were building them, as they needed various skills and advice. But I would say that the motivation for the instruments came also from a variety of sources. In one case, a student was motivated to build an instrument that would have a new sound that he could use for composing music for movies and TV shows, which is something that he does. In another case, a student was interested in the idea that she could create a new collaborative environment for composing music by having an instrument that only 2 people could play together by collaborating.
And then the last part of the class was a sort of similar to a kind of design challenge in an engineering type course, where students came up with their own designs for musical instruments, and then we worked with them over the course of about 4 or 5 weeks to build several prototypes, and then ultimately come up with a finished instrument that they could perform and present to the public in the final presentations.
The CEID provided a very unique environment, and they were coming up with an instrument that could only be built in that environment with the tools that they had at hand. So they just simply thought of something that they couldn't build in any other context.